I present to you the Loch Ness Monster. It's a steel roller coaster located in Williamsburg, Virginia. It was opened in 1978. It's the first roller coaster to ever have interlocking loops. To this day, it is the only roller coaster to have interlocking loops. So this is a track replacement project. This is how construction should be. Prefabricate it, bring it in, put it where it needs to go based on the model. I'm gonna take you with me on an expedition about capturing the Loch Ness Monster. It was pretty neat this week. Talked to two different people. One person sent me a message that said, "Is this just clickbait?" But then with a little winky emoji at the end. So I was like, okay, that's cool. Another person came up and asked if this was about bathymetry. It's neither one of those. It is kind of a little bit clickbaity because it is capturing the Loch Ness Monster. But I present to you the Loch Ness Monster. That's the Loch Ness Monster. It's a steel roller coaster located in Williamsburg, Virginia. It was opened in 1978. It's the first roller coaster to ever have interlocking loops. To this day, it is the only roller coaster to have interlocking loops. Typical roller coasters have a 30-year life cycle, and they just get torn down and a new one gets built. This project was finished in 2024 in the winter. You can do the math. That's more than 30 years. It's a special roller coaster. The coaster organization declared it a landmark, a coaster landmark. This was in 2003. So the parallel here, if you work in like a historic preservation side, there's a parallel. This is a historic roller coaster. Again, it's a very important roller coaster. This person got a tattoo of the interlocking loops. Millions of people have ridden on this roller coaster. When you talk about it where I'm from, which is Maryland, DC, Maryland, Virginia, the DMV, you talk to someone about the Loch Ness Monster, every single one is gonna go, that was the first roller coaster I ever rode. Or if you talk to someone a little bit older, like me, they go, that was the first roller coaster my kid rode. It's a very important roller coaster. This dude got a tattoo. Imagine if it's that important to millions of people. If it's important enough to someone get a tattoo, imagine how that asset is to our partner, our long-standing partner, Busch Gardens. It's very important. It's a moneymaker. These are the plans that we received. And here's another parallel to the architect. If you're doing scan and BIM for the architecture world, how are the plans that you typically get, if they even exist? I call this 2D on 2D. It's like 1.5D. But the yellow highlighter was a track that's going to actually be replaced. So this is a track replacement project. And then the red was just additional scanning area that they wanted captured, just in case that when it went through the design process, if those cut lines shifted. So at the end of the day, the project was to scan and model 1,650 feet for track replacement. And this is a prefabrication. So we're scanning, modeling, sending that model up the Northwest US, prefabricated, shipped back to Virginia to then be constructed. Here's a picture of Loch Ness prior to construction. But at the end of the day, when it's done, it looks exactly the same, minus the Nessie turds. I'm serious. There's a such thing as Nessie turds. I was told this by the maintenance guys. So the maintenance guys have to grease the carts, right? When it rides along all the tracks, there's pressure points, steel on steel, and they grease. What flings grease then onto the track? Those are Nessie turds. You learned something today, people. So priority one, I'm going on an expedition to capture old Nessie. She's big, she's fast. It's gonna be trouble. Might be a fight. It's gonna be hard. So what's priority number one? Everyone knows. What is it? Nope. Safety. As with essentially every project, you need to develop a safety plan, and then more importantly, you need to adhere to it. Now, one thing that I'm not a huge fan of is the safety plans that have been like SWPP and then SWPPP, SWPPPP. They keep adding a P at the end of them, and then it ends up being this 40-page safety plan. And if something happens, then you're someone sitting there scrolling on an iPad and can't really find the pertinent information. I like a shorter one that just says all the contact information of the team that's on site, all the contact information of the partner Busch Gardens, contact information for the local EMT, directions to the closest hospital, whatever you need quickly to act if something happens. Ours was morning meetings with the maintenance team. Biggest thing was 100% tie-off at all times. That's just non-negotiable whatsoever at all. Lockout, tagout. If you're not familiar with lockout, tagout, essentially the breaker, so what provides electric to the cars for it to run, has a little device on it, just holds locks where each person that's accessing the track has their own lock. You put the lock on so that breaker can't switch until the key that's in my pocket, and then the key that's in a different team member's pocket is unlocked and those locks are off. So everyone has their own individual lock. Lockout, tagout. So that was priority one, is safety. Now we've plotted where Nessie is. We have a good idea. It's time to go after her. So this was our plan. We knew we were going to be on top of the track. For that, we planned on using an RTC on the track, and then a P50 below, and a P50 to then get like special areas we thought were just a little too sketchy to be carrying a $90,000 piece of equipment up on. We knew we were going to use mostly cloud to cloud, but then we were planning for some type of cloud to cloud problem. So we put some control in the areas, or targets in the areas that we thought may not work out cloud to cloud. We knew we needed a good survey control network. This was going to be on Virginia State Plain. We also were contracted to do monitoring during the construction phase, so we knew that we needed a strong control network as well. This is when we took our tools and we started capturing old Nessie. A couple of our team members, the picture on the left, you can see the target in the background. The scanner is probably just a little bit ahead of the cut line. We always made sure to have a target past that endpoint of where our limits were. We wanted to make sure we verified at the ends that our stuff was right. As I'm standing here today, I can honestly say that my reality capture team are the only people in the entire world to capture the Loch Ness Monster. Many people have tried, most people never even seen her, but we got her. I don't know if anyone else says this, but I say it all the time, laser scanning is the easy part, and so now we're moving on to the challenge. The hard part is the modeling. The photos that are up there, as well as provided to us for our scoping purposes, they wanted a lot more detail than what those photos show. Some of those images, to me, it looks like it's like floating, not really connected to anything. That was not what they were looking for from us. And I can never say this more and emphasize it more than if you're doing a scan to bin project, it doesn't matter if it's a building, it doesn't matter if it's a bridge, it doesn't matter if it's a roller coaster, you cannot be too detailed in scoping out what you're going to model, and more importantly, what you're not going to model. This is an image that we put in our scope just to kind of visualize what we were talking about, what we were going to model, and then what not to model. And as most of you, whoever I've talked to multiple times this week, you probably know that I repeat myself. You cannot be too detailed in scoping out what you're going to model and what you're not going to model. For the modeling effort, we didn't want to attack it all at once, so we broke it up in 4 sections. We had section 1, section 2, 3, and 4. We're doing a staggered delivery. So in model 1, send that to the design team. Start 2, design team's doing their work. Give them 2, we're working on 3, they're working on 2, give them 3, we're working on 4, etc. You get the point. And there's the model. I want to point out, this isn't a sexy model. This isn't the Nerf splatting stuff I've been hearing about all week, which is pretty awesome. This isn't that. The intent of this model is this is a construction level model. So this is more about dimensions and being accurate and being a Schedule 40 pipe with the correct thickness by ASTM standards. That's what this model is. It's not a sexy one. Although, I mean, it's not too bad, right? These were our pain points. Where those areas are is where we kind of got dinged a little bit. We weren't expecting the angle iron to be different connecting the catwalks every single time. We weren't expecting the catwalk to be different every time. We weren't expecting the cross ties to be so different. Our thought was we were going to be able to do one family and just like copy and paste, essentially, like over and over again. Catwalks ended up being damn near different on every single one. So we ended up with a ton of families with these just catwalks. That kind of sucked. The point that I got annoyed about is the arrow on the left. It's a triangular gusset. So that 1/4-inch steel plate gusset that connects the 3x3 box steel, it's going across, and the 3x3 box steel going up, connects the spine to the rails. That triangular gusset, those were new. Those cross ties got put in 2003, just in the loop area, so there's like 20 of them. Triangular gusset came on and they cut the tip, just the tip. Cut that off for just a tiny bit more surface area welding. We didn't show that cut off tip in our model, and they called us out for that. I was a little annoyed. Remember those images I showed earlier on about the scoping? Like stuff floating? Well, they came back and dinged us about the gusset. So we captured Nessie, digitized her, vectorized her, sent it off to the designer. He works in SolidWorks, which was also a little bit annoying, so they didn't want to get the plug-in to bring in a point cloud. But that's fine, it's beyond the point. So they work in SolidWorks, then they sent their information over to the Northwest US, the fabricator. Fabricator built it, got put on flatbeds, and then got shipped back to Williamsburg. This is during construction. So essentially it's just a crane that's lifting sections of the track. These are about 15 to 20 foot long sections. But put them in place, rig them up, tack weld them. And this is something new that I learned about roller coasters and track replacement. What they do is on the track, on one of the rails, they put dimples on either end. Those dimples is what coordinates us back to their design in the model. So this was part of our more traditional surveying effort. We'd locate those two dimples, and if it was within tolerance, then they could do the final weld. We got called out. Again, they said, we just want to double check the interconnecting sleeves of the superstructure to the spine of the track on the loops. So there's sleeves, or there's Schedule 40 pipe, goes from the superstructure, connection to the spine. Sleeves slide onto that and then get welded onto the spine. They wanted to check our angles. So they went up, maintenance guys told me about Nessie's turds. They went up and they had 28.5 degrees. We checked the model, as you can see, 28.4. I'll take that. It's just a little closer detail of those connecting sleeves and the connecting Schedule 40 pipe. What was also interesting is the coping of the connection sleeves. So all they wanted to do is put the sleeve on the connecting pipe, slide it down, weld it in place. They didn't want to do any grinding and cutting in the field. Here's the result. You can see where the connection sleeves are. You can see the sleeves, each individually numbered, that go to a very specific spot. This is how construction should be, not just in here, and all kinds of things. Prefabricate it, bring it in, put it where it needs to go based on the model, right? Love this quote. So Busch Gardens had a VIP event after construction was done. They invited everyone that worked on the coaster, and they invited people that like season pass holders. that we could ride the coaster before it was open to the public. So I'm there, I'm drinking my Loch Ness Monster, talking with Greg, who has his Bud Light. Because I was nervous watching those track pieces being delivered. Everything fit exactly as planned. You guys did a great job. It's awesome. So pumped to hear that from a long-term client, long-term partner of ours. This is just the photos that you get when you ride the coaster and the downhill and the last loop. You know, it just takes your photo and puts it on there. This is 3 of the team members who worked on the project. There's about 8 or 9 of us in total that kind of had a hand on it. This is from that same event. So POV, you're the old guy at a 12-year-old's roller coaster party. If you know me, I'm kind of a big kid at heart. I like to enjoy life. I like to have fun. So that's what that's from. And then now I'd like to bring you along with me the first time that I rode the Loch Ness Monster.
Let's go! All right, so we rode it. It was pretty awesome. It was great to see all the hard work that we put together. So the moral of the story is take pride in your work. There's just a lot of people that might enjoy it at one point in time. So this is great. First time I ever rode it, and first roller coaster I ever laser scanned and modeled. So it's pretty cool.
I'm gonna echo what the better looking Shaun just said. Take pride in your work, right? Do good quality. What I found in my career, it spans a few decades now, is that if you do quality work, you get more work. You get more work, you get more money. And that's what we're all in it for, right? All right, well, thank you guys. I appreciate you sticking around.